Today I want to talk to you about reactive versus proactive behaviour. Now there's a little bit of a misnomer around this, as most people I think believe that proactive is like an opposite to reactive, and I want to talk about that today and really talk about what proactive behaviour is. But to start with, I want to ask a pretty simple question. How much of your day is reactive? I want you to think about that for a while, because most times when I ask people that, they sort of think about, well, I think, yeah, a fair bit of my day or a reasonable amount of my day. What if I said to you that at least 95% of your day was reactive? And in fact, if I challenged you even further, that probably 100% on most days. Here's the reality, is that all behaviour is in fact reactive. Now, you're going to be thinking, well, okay, Phil, if that's the case, what is proactive behaviour? Proactive behaviour is in fact reactive behaviour. And I'll come to the description of what proactive behaviour is in a moment. But everything is done for a reason. Whether we do it reactively or proactively, we're still reacting to something. So this isn't about whether behaviour is reactive or proactive, because it is in fact reactive. But what we're talking about here is how much of our behaviour is directly attributable to the fact we're reacting to something right now, and that there's no proactive thought involved in that whatsoever. And the reality is, because we're subconsciously driven, and our subconscious creates over 95% of all behaviours, we are, by the way we're wired, reactive to at least 95%. And for us to work greater than that, to have a factor of reactive behaviour, you would have to be working against the way you're currently thinking, which is possible. Coming back to proactive behaviour. So what is proactive behaviour? So proactive behaviour, as I've already said, is reactive. So what makes it proactive? My belief is, or the definition I like for proactive behaviour, is that proactive behaviour is any behaviour that you do that nobody else is holding you accountable for. It's something you're doing for yourself. It's something you've come up with and you're doing it. But if you didn't do it, no one would say anything. I'll give an example of a story I had. I was working with in a workshop with a group once, and I asked the question of how much of your day is reactive and how much is proactive, and this guy said, oh, look, I'd be lucky to be 40% reactive. I'm easily 60% proactive. So I said, that's interesting, because obviously I didn't believe that to be true. So I sort of said, how does that work? And he said, Phil, I'm in marketing. As if that was sort of the answer to everything, because all marketing behaviour is proactive. And I said, so give me an example of a proactive behaviour that you've had recently that you believe takes you into this 60% bracket of proactive. And he said, Phil, we just recently had a new product come into the department, and we needed to create the product launch. So we went out there, I grabbed my marketing team, and we built this launch, we built the TVC, and we built this thing, we got all the advertising material up, and we launched the product. I said, that's really interesting. So what makes you think that is proactive? I agree, it's incredibly creative, but what's the difference between creative and proactive? Why did you create a launch program for the product? And he said, because we produced a new product. See, this wasn't done by them unilaterally making a decision to do something. So the example of proactive behaviour from a marketing point of view is if the marketing team sat down one day, was brainstorming and said, you know what, we're unhappy with the way our brand's being represented in the marketing or in the press today, in the way we're seen outside. So we're going to recreate it, we're going to modernise it. And they did all of this work and then created this pitch. And then they went to the CEO and the executive team and said, look at the work we've done. Without the CEO knowing about it, without the executive team knowing about it, that would have been proactive, creative and proactive. See, no one's holding them accountable for that. So an example of that is if you go for a run in the morning, is that reactive or proactive? Now, it's reactive because there's a reason why you're doing it. You might want to get fit, you might want to lose weight, you might want to get ready for a wedding or something. There'd be some reason why you're probably doing it. But it's proactive because if you didn't do it, no one else would hold you accountable. So then you start to think about how much proactive behaviour we actually have in our life. And when I do this with people, either coach or when working in a workshop, it starts to scare people a little bit, because you start to realise there's very little behaviour that we have that we're not externally being held accountable for. So to be truly proactive, You have to really think about the things that you want to challenge, the one you want to change, where you want to make some improvement, where you want to add greater value, and then come up with a concept, a thought, an idea that's going to enable you to make a difference. And that would be proactive. Thank you.